All right, fantastic. We have our last session of the morning that is about to start now. Maybe we can kind of kick off with a quick kind of show of hands. Are there any entrepreneurs in the room? Any entrepreneurs looking for funding in the room? All right, so you are in the right place. Alex, welcome to the stage from Cardano. And he's going to talk about how to get funding through Catalyst.
Thanks, Raz. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very quick masterclass on how to get funded on Cardano. I see a couple of familiar faces here, but I'll introduce myself nonetheless. I'm Alex Maaza. I'm the sustainability lead at the Cardano Foundation. And in my job, I look at two things. Blockchain for good, so using blockchain for sustainability. And then I think about things related to the sustainability of blockchain. And one of these things is governance. And one of these subcategories is the governance of funds. As you know, Cardano is a third-generation blockchain, and the Cardano Foundation is a Swiss entity that tries to push forward the public infrastructure of Cardano across a number of different industries. Now, we've been here at CVC for a huge number of years, I think almost since the beginning. But one thing that you may not know about us is that we've changed our strategy a little bit and the way that we communicate it, where we have three strategic focus areas that you can see on screen. Operational resilience, to make sure that the public blockchain infrastructure that we support can be resilient, can have the uptime that is required by critical use cases. We also focus on education. This is what we're doing right now, but also through an academy product and a number of different initiatives with different stakeholders, including policymakers and regulators. And then we also look at adoption. This is something that we all know about. This is also something that we'd love to see for blockchain technology, ubiquitous adoption. And that's what we're working hard at in terms of lowering the cost of entry and making sure that from an open source perspective, we have the things that are there to move forward. Now, I want to speak to you about Project Catalyst. And what I want to make super clear is that the Cardano Foundation is not Project Catalyst. Project Catalyst is a grant funding instrument that is run by input-output and uses treasury funding to fund innovation and adoption on Cardano. Now, the latest Catalyst round, which is closing, I think, what closed an hour ago, had 50 million ADA. So take at current market prices, you can pretty much just halve that for quick maths. Before I jump into Catalyst, I want to share maybe an interesting stat. What you see is that the Cardano treasury has 1.5 billion ADA in it today. The way that this treasury is filled up is that the more transactions exist, a 20% tax is taken off that transaction and goes into the treasury. Now, who here knows about decentralized treasuries on blockchain? Just a quick, okay, a couple of people. If you go on DeFi Llama and you search the treasury tab, you'll see that in the top 10, there is currently $20 billion worth of assets. Cardano's 700 million at current market prices. Just in the top 10, there are hundreds of blockchains that have decentralized treasury. And so this is a massive, massive opportunity for people within Cardano and in the broader blockchain space. Now, with Catalyst, what is Catalyst? It's an instrument that is run by input-output. It's a community of 60,000 people that since 2021 have made proposals, reviewed these proposals, and then voted on them. Since 2021, we have close to $80 million of funding, of grant funding dispersed to the ecosystem, and over 1,600 projects that were funded, half of them being completed. And Catalyst typically runs on a trimestral basis, so every 3 months or 4 months, you will have a Catalyst fund. We've had Fund 10, or Fund 11 and Fund 12 this year, and Fund 13 should be coming at a little bit later this year. And essentially, the way that this is being done right now, and this has gone through a lot of iterations where the community used to decide what these categories would be, but now they've kind of stabilized. So this is why we want to share a little bit more about Catalyst right now, is that you can expect something similar in the next round that happens in October, and maybe prepare for it. Now, the top is pretty self-explanatory. Concept, super, super early. MVP, something that goes into the test net, something that gets tested about and tries to break. Product is something that you're then trying to productize and bring to market. We also invest quite heavily on developer-focused grants, as you can see here. And then when it speaks about the ecosystem, these are more education, marketing, events-related types of categories. But I want to zoom in on the last category, which is brand new for this Fund 12, and will hopefully carry over into Fund 13. Now, this targets larger proposals that are a little bit older and more mature than the product category. And here we're looking at large corporate entities that want to test out the utility of blockchain in their systems. We're also looking at marketing partnerships, and this is not just stick a logo on a car. It could be. That's up to you to propose. But really kind of broadening the scope of what marketing actually means to Web3 entities. And of course, accelerators to take young projects and bring them to market from an incubation, an accelerator readiness, an investor readiness level, so that they can take their products to market and drive adoption. Now, just a few names that have popped up. I wish I could have added a few more this morning, some of which include Techstars, one of the leading pre-accelerators and seed investors in the world. But here what you'll see is really a mix of everything. You have Barcelona Football Club's Web3 entity that's bringing a certain aspect of community management and tokenization in their systems, or asking the Cardano community to fund this. You have Brave that wants to run its partnership programs, which it usually runs business to foundation. Here they want to partner with the Cardano ecosystem, and that's what they're doing through Project Catalyst. And then, of course, we have things like Salesforce. We have Salto systems, include multi-services that are looking about digital identity and access systems. And these are, for some, multi-billion-dollar companies. And of course, $1 million for blockchain R&D is peanuts to their innovation budgets. But what this kind of funding allows internal champions to do is to accelerate the company's decision-making in terms of experimenting with this technology. And we've actually seen this in this fund, where companies had ideas about using blockchain technology. They had internal alignment, but perhaps the immediate budget was not there. Maybe it was going after AI projects that are all the hype right now. And so we believe that using decentralized funding and availing these kind of grant fund instruments can actually accelerate the way that some of these companies might test out blockchain technology. And of course, I'm really happy to see, international organizations like the United Nations Development Program and the International Rescue Committee putting forward some proposals, because that's a little bit of also of what I do with blockchain for good. Now, Ledger actually did it first. They didn't start in 2024. They figured this out in 2021. Ledger Live. Who here has used Ledger Live before? Cool. So usually what would happen with Ledger Live is that you would be the foundation or the labs or some kind of, founding entity, and you would contract with Ledger in order to have that integration and then maintain it. What they've done is they've managed to bring together. Well, our community wanted this. This is the most important thing. It's not that the CF or anybody else decided, we want Ledger Live. No, our community, like you, were users of a Ledger product. They were on Ledger Live. They were frustrated that they could not use Cardano on Ledger Live. And so they got together in 2021 at the very earliest days of Project Catalyst. And they then started working with Ledger. And Ledger was kind enough to actually try this stuff out. Now, how do you do this, right? How do you navigate these things? And so the way we've seen this done is that you work with ecosystem partners that can educate, de-risk, and simplify your approach as an organization that's trying to get into Web3. by guiding you through the technology questions, the ecosystem questions, the financials, how do you custody ADA, which is a major topic for many, early stage, let's say industrial organizations that try to take on Web3 technologies. And so what we've seen is not only do these companies, these ecosystem partners accompany partners that may come in through the CF or through other organizations, but they also bring them in themselves. And so what you have here is a vibrant economy of business development firms that are essentially ecosystem partners. We have Storm with Marco over here, we have NMaker over there, and I'd encourage you to go and speak with them for you to understand exactly how they help organizations navigate the space, because it can seem very complex, it can seem very new, but at the end of the day, it's pretty simple if you take your time to listen to some of these experts. Now, you cannot put a proposal in today, unfortunately, or you'd have to go back in time an hour. What you can do is participate as a voter in this first instance, see how you enjoy Project Catalyst, see how you enjoy supporting certain kinds of projects, or not, that's up for you to decide. But I just want to do a quick test. Does anybody here have Cardano or ADA in a wallet? Okay, so everybody that lifted their hands, if you have a self-custodial wallet, you can very easily vote on any of these and more. And you can see what it's like to be a part of the Cardano community, to decide how you allocate the Cardano community's funds. And so what I'd encourage you to do is just scan this QR code over here, read through the launch guide so you understand Project Catalyst a little bit more. There's a specific link about wallet registration. And if you are able to do this before the 18th of June, so you've got 2 weeks, you've got some time, you'll be able to vote with your relative ADA power, right? So if you have ADA, it's a minimum of 500 for security reasons. But if you have a minimum of 500 ADA, you can participate in this round of Project Catalyst as a voter. I think that's, for me, that was the first step that I took into Cardano in, beginning of 2021, where I registered as a voter, and I saw the power of decentralized funding generally. And so I'll just leave this up for a quick second. But otherwise, I'd encourage you to visit our booth to find out more about what the Cardano Foundation does, where our strategic focus lies, what kinds of products and tools we're focusing on developing, and where we'd like to go next. So with that, I'd like to thank you and open the floor for any questions that you may have. And questions? Yes?
What's your interest in games?
Blockchain games. So I'm just going to go back to big esports, right? As the CF. So for us, one of the really important things is adoption, right? And adoption is measured by activity on chain. Activity in terms of volume, in terms of diversity. So what kind of transactions exist on chain? Are they purely, crypto to crypto transactions? Are they purely, or do they have an NFT component or a native asset or a smart contract? My understanding is that Web3 games are quite aligned to these kinds of things. But as the foundation, we take let's say, a more neutral view to the, let's say, general thematic areas that we'll typically see. That being said, we do look at questions around authenticity, supply chain, and sustainability. But could you expand on your question with games?
We're developing a number of different products. One of them is a game, which is taking quite a long time to develop. It's the amount of development working on huge.
Yeah.
Underestimate it, sadly. And we're also interested in launching new types of meme coins are really hot right now.
Okay.
Are you guys interested in funding meme coin projects?
They might be. It was a little bit slow on the click. I was really trying to punch it through. So there is a big appetite. There is a big appetite for gaming in certain parts of the Cardano community. We have seen some stakeholders actually that have spun off from a company called DC Spark, who have founded Primus Studios, and what they've managed to create is a bridge between Arbitrum and Cardano to some extent, and they focus exclusively on gaming. So there is an appetite, there is a community, and essentially the power of Cardano, maybe as opposed to other blockchains, is that we look at decentralization in a number of different ways. And in this case, this is decision making about what direction do we take with our grant funding. And so it's what you see typically are interest groups that are forming, and for example, for gaming or memes, that are forming and putting together proposals for some of these categories, and trying to advocate for why their particular industry or use case might be most beneficial to the blockchain ecosystem itself. Because at the end of the day, a blockchain is only as sustainable as it can remain secure. And many blockchains require economic security, which means utility, usage of the public infrastructure. And so if games are the right way, and you believe that's the thing, and that can reach that goal, then you just have to convince a few people. And I want to kind of also maybe take a step back. This is one very specific case of blockchain governance. So it's just treasury governance of Project Catalyst, right? 50 million ADA funds. Now, Cardano is embarking in what is called Voltaire. So that is the last era of its development roadmap for Cardano 1.0. And Voltaire is all about governance. This is about governance of the blockchain's parameters. It's about governance of the blockchain's upgrades and of its treasury, in and amongst a number of different governance actions. And so this is where, I don't have a laser, but I'll point, this is where this comes into question, right? So here you're not only trying to convince people at a 50 million ADA fund that gaming is the way to make Cardano grow. Very soon, you'll be advocating for how this is spent and where that's spent and whether gaming is actually the right thing. So these are the opportunities that exist here and in other blockchain ecosystems that have decentralized treasuries, where essentially if you're a token holder, if you're a validator, and whatever special kind of role you might play in their governance setup, you're able to influence that.
So
Yeah.
just to clarify, we have the correct proposal, send it to you. If you guys approve it, and then people can vote on it. So then we have to mark it half the
Oh,
proposal.
so that's a very good question. So this is what happens. Let's say we're in, we don't have a date yet, but it should be somewhere towards the latter part of the year. So let's say we've just come back from summer, it's September, everybody's ready to get back to work. You're waiting for Fund 13, you're starting a proposal, and so you'll set this proposal up. Once the application is open for Fund 13, you will make a submission to that with that proposal. During that period of time, there's a review, there's a time for review, so essentially you can get feedback from the community about your proposal. And then you can kind of make some edits to make it more aligned to maybe some of the needs that exist and based on the feedback. It typically happens over a 2-week period. Then that's locked in. And then you have a horde of community reviewers. So these are people that sign up that are passionate about Cardano and its future. And they will review a huge amount of proposals. Usually there's over like 1,000 a fund. So that's the way that reviewing scales. When it comes to the Cardano partners and real-world integrations category, there it's done in a little bit of a different fashion, because for that category we only have sub 50 proposals, and there's a review committee that looks at these, judges them on the criteria, but then all of these proposals to different categories they all get voted on equally at the same time. So essentially, what you get out of this category over here is a shortlist. And what you get out of these other categories over there is a rating that has been, and some comments from community reviewers, and you can really see what people have said about this kind of stuff. So that's essentially the process. And once the votes close, there's about a couple of days before they release because they audit the results and all this stuff, and then they start onboarding people through grantee agreements and milestone-based funding.
So we need to contact the Cardano in Wales, go to Wales to get best practice. Is that right?
Maybe that could be your strategy, but that is a really good comment, right? So stake-based governance systems do tend towards plutocracy, right? And so what you're saying here is like, if I'm maybe outside of the ecosystem, it might be difficult for me to come in, right? So this is an observation that the Cardano community has actually had, and they funded a proposal to look at alternative voting schemes to be implemented in Project Catalyst. So merit-based, experience-based, etc. I think yesterday they did a presentation midpoint of their research. So hopefully this is something that they can implement pretty soon to make things easier for externals from that ecosystem, even if they're in Web3, to not have to, for example, rely on large incumbents for votes. It's a pleasure. Any other questions, comments? If not, I will not hold you back for lunch. And yeah, thank you for your attention and have a great day. Take care.
Fantastic. I think it's time to fund our stomachs. We have an hour and a half break before we kick back with some masterclasses. Thank you so much.